Pat, how you feeling? You feeling a little bit better after last week? You were sick and a little stuffed up. You feeling a little bit?
As far as being sick, the sickness has passed. I had a great shooting weekend with some friends that were in town. I think that Karen and I are getting close to starting Sapow Productions, Sepulveda and Chao, where essentially we have all the equipment, so we might just start going to people's places and just like filming their self-tapes, or if people need people to shoot their music videos or sketches for them, we can start doing that. So,
dude, yeah absolutely. I started my own production company. It's easy and it's worthwhile if you've got the gear and the time. So fucking do it.
Yeah. So, as far as it's like being sick was awful, but gave me a lot of self-reflection time and time to recharge, and I'm feeling great. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing really good, actually. So before we get into the big announcements and stuff, hello and welcome, everybody, to Pop Culture Party People, the only podcast on the internet about pop culture and the only podcast that actively says you should do PCP even if it's bad for you.
And just to clarify, with every episode, we're not saying PCP, the drug. We're saying Pop Culture Party. Everyone should ingest Pop Culture Party all the time.
I don't know why people would get that confused. Is there another substance that's bad for you?
You know what?
Could be ingested?
It's so adorable that the drug doesn't come to mind for you first, and our podcast comes to mind first for you. But yes, Dillon, sometimes people get confused and think that we might be suggesting people should do a hardcore hallucinogenic and carcinogen in their body. Is it carcinogen? I don't actually even know how people ingest PCP.
Well, to my knowledge, a carcinogen is like anything that's smoke related. So seeing as PCP is, to my knowledge, smoked out of a glass pipe, just kind of like crack is.
Yeah.
I believe that it could have carcinogenic properties.
Yes. But also that White as Kids You Know sketch, he has a big bottle of liquid PCP. So, you know what? This is...
Yeah. We're going to be 100% honest. We don't know much about PCP except for the Pop Culture Party, and we're so glad to have you here. My name is Dillon Birdsall. I'm a host here at PCPP.
I'm Warren Chao. I'm another host here at PCPP, and we're very excited for this episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it. Last week, we did our very first Pop Culture Pantheon episode, which was very fucking cool. Very excited that we got to make one of those for the first time. And with that episode and with Matt Page, we've just been a little busy. We haven't had time to recommend stuff to each other and do things. And this episode is just going to be kind of like another one where we kind of just go through what we've been watching and stuff that we were kind of like excited about pop culture wise. And then at the end of this episode, we might have an announcement. We're probably having more guests on next week, which is really fucking cool.
Yes.
But in the meantime, I just announced my brand new feature-length film, which I am in production on. Thank you so much for that. I've been working on it now since the beginning of January, and it's finally gotten to a place where I'm going to be traveling the country a little bit more. We've gotten a good amount of footage, but I still need a lot more, so we're going to be doing a Seed and Spark campaign, and the project is called More Than Monogamy. Which is an exploration of the lifestyle, which can include swinging, BDSM, and polyamory. Our tagline is, if you can think it, you can kink it.
Very nice.
I'm very proud of that tagline. The alliteration is so good. But this whole past month, I've been kind of like working on the Seed and Spark campaign to like raise money and do all that stuff. So that campaign will be going live on June 14th. And if you're a listener and you want to support that, that would be fucking amazing. In the meantime, if you are part of the lifestyle or interested in the lifestyle, please follow us at More Than Monog on Twitter and Instagram, and www.morethanmonogamy.com.
So what is your connection to this movie? What made you want to talk about this, the non-monogamous lifestyle, and what are some personal anecdotes you have?
So, I was a virgin until I was 25. And through the process of being a virgin, I made a documentary called V-Card. And that was my first feature film. And through the process of making that movie, I had to do tons of research. I met tons of amazing people. And the woman who took my virginity was actually in the lifestyle. She was a sex educator and she was in a polyamorous relationship with a few people. And I found that extremely interesting and kind of liberating, especially as somebody who had never had sex. The idea that you could have multiple partners and kind of explore your sexuality with people who are also open-minded and caring of your feelings was really cool. Like that was really interesting to me. And don't get me wrong, the lifestyle and being part of it in ethical non-monogamy is not a cure-all for a relationship. Right. Honestly, it doesn't work for like 90% of relationships that try it. But for the people who figure it out and make it work, it's this kind of like life-changing, really emotionally and physically rewarding part of their life.
Sure.
And I've been lucky enough now to be a part of the lifestyle for about 4 years. I'm not extremely active in it. And obviously COVID has taken a lot of opportunity away for people to go to parties and do things. But yeah, after losing my virginity, I was basically going to orgies. It was a very funny like transition into it. But it's super amazing. And I am all for promoting a healthier version of your sexuality, promoting a healthier view of relationships being more complex than just one person doing all of the heavy lifting in a relationship. You know, it's very difficult to be somebody's primary partner.
Sure.
Like that's really hard. And if you need to find maybe some happiness or some physical connection with somebody else, I don't think that's a failing on you as a couple. I think that is a very human, very natural thing that should be discussed and openly looked at in the context of a relationship.
It's an interesting topic because Mormonism or being Mormon has like totally co-opted polyamory. It has totally just like kind of blurred that thing of like, oh, well, if you're going to be in a non-monogamous relationship, you're just going to be one guy with 4 wives and be this really messed up thing. It's like, well, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way and doesn't necessarily work out that way.
Well, that's not necessarily true because Mormonism or some sects of Mormonism practice polygamy. Okay. Which is different than polyamory. Polyamory is the exchange of love and affection and physical contact between multiple people in the context of a relationship. And polygamy is usually the practice of one man having multiple wives, usually in the context of it being for religious reasons, but usually it's just a way of exerting control in a relationship, which is definitely not the same thing as polyamory. Polyamory is much more based on, once again, realizing that there are other people in your life who may be able to provide emotional and or physical support better than your primary partner. And that's not a failing on your primary partner's fault. It's just that some people are better at communicating. Some people are better at sex. Some people are better at emotional connection. All of those things on the spectrum can play into a polyamorous relationship where it's like, yeah, maybe your primary partner isn't so great at the communication aspect of your relationship. And you have another person who you are intimate with physically that you also have maybe a little bit more of an ability to communicate with. But that's just like an example.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I'm excited to watch it because I need to learn a lot more. You know, I'm already mixing up polyamory and polygamy. My mind goes to like the idea of someone with an actual wife or partner, but then when they go to work, they have their work wife, work partner as well. So it's like, you know, maybe it's like a thing of like the communication could happen where they're like, oh, I'm fulfilled in a different way by this partner here. It doesn't take away anything from my main partner, but I feel validation in certain thing being fulfilled elsewhere. So. Yeah,
well, that is a part of it. You know, it's once again, not everybody can be that person all the time. Right. And there are going to come times and be times in a relationship where you are attracted to somebody else, where you do think about, you know, cheating, quote unquote. And if you haven't had those discussions yet with your partner about, hey, I still love you, but I'm missing this aspect of our relationship, and I want to see if we can explore this. That is definitely cheating. But if you are open and honest with your partner and are like, hey, I think that something is missing, or that we could do something differently, or I would like to try a new blah, blah, blah. Like, all of that needs to happen in the context of your primary relationship, but it means that if your partner is open to it, you can have more than monogamy. You can have more than this. You can do more things in the context of your one primary relationship. Right. And that's really exciting and interesting and cool.
Wow. I can't wait, man. It sounds like such a great movie. But it's definitely like the next evolution for your documentary series as well. And I cannot wait to hear and see more about it. Congratulations.
No, thanks, dude. But yeah, no, it is. It's going to be a fun follow-up to V-Card, which is all about virginity. And then, of course, after me losing my virginity, I got into this. So it's going to be like a nice follow-up and a nice kind of continuation of that. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it because most of the versions of this that I've seen on like Showtime and HBO and even some other documentaries, it all makes it very kind of like, look at these crazy people doing all this sexual stuff. It's so kooky
taboo.
And taboo. Yeah. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's not that. It's normal, everyday people who deeply love one another, but are also open to the idea of exploring their sexuality. And if we can get to a place where that's more common with people, I am happy to be leading the charge on that.
Yeah, interestingly enough, TikTok, I find I'll enter different pockets of TikTok. And for a while, early on, I kept seeing polygamy talk, where just like couples showcasing all their different partners and how happy they were living together during the quarantine. And it was this thing of like, there's no need for the taboo or the hypersexualization of it, or it's just like people who are able to communicate on a different level and are really happy together. There's no reason to make it fetishized or anything crazy. It's just a very sweet look at a couple of multiple partners.
Yeah, absolutely. The documentary is going to be, almost, I'm not going to say it's going to be non-sexual because it's a documentary about sex, but like the whole point of the documentary is to educate and not so much to titillate, you know? It's to show you that there are other options and explain what those options are and give you a framework that if you were thinking about opening up your relationship, here's a place to start. Here are resources for you to use.
What I would want to see is these couples grocery shopping. I want to see the most mundane tasks to just dispel any fetishization or sexualization or titillization. It's like, oh, they're just at a farmer's market. Man, this is so normal that I
mean, yeah, like I don't know how much like B-roll footage we're going to have. Like the documentary is going to be like hyper stylized. Like, I don't know if you've seen like Vox Media's like explained series or like the history of swear words. It's going to be very much in that style. So I'm going to be presenting it. We're going to have a very nice set and background. And then we're going to cut to experts and then cut to interviews with people who are in the lifestyle all along the path of like, here's what the definition of like a rope bunny and here's what swinging is. And like, do key parties really happen? And like all of those like things that I want to demystify. I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be this thing anymore where people are just like, oh, polyam, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's much more normal than you think.
It's the perfect project for you, and it'd be the perfect series if you were able to get like a Netflix show off of it. Like how the history of swear words exists on Netflix. If you're able to get your documentary into a series, it would be, you as the host of that would be perfect.
No, I would like that would be the dream, right? Like,
yes.
I love being a filmmaker and I love being a documentary filmmaker, but being a host of something like that, especially with a wide reach, would be like, that'd be really cool. I would love that to happen. But let's just focus on making the thing first. So yes, we're going to be running a Seed and Spark to raise funds for it starting on the 14th. I know money is a little tight with COVID and everything, but you know, even donating $1 helps. So
awesome.
Just keep that in mind. But let us move on to all of the incredible geek stuff that has happened throughout the week. What do you want to talk about first?
Loki came out today. I guess would be a week after the fact, probably episode 2 by the time this episode comes out. Obviously, every Marvel show right now is a home run. So I've only watched a little bit of it, and what I've watched, I really enjoyed. And I think that it's going to finally, a little bit of a spoiler, address the Mephisto issue.
Ooh.
I think he might be the titular villain in this show.
That's interesting because I just read today that Mephisto is categorically not going to be in the show.
Yeah.
Like
So
Marvel HQ said that is not happening. Actually, I don't think Marvel wants to bring in Mephisto at all.
Yeah,
I don't know
sense.
why.
They don't want to put the devil in there, you know?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like they're trying to pander to a largely Christian nation and not have literal Satan be a part of their franchise, which is too bad. Satan's a great villain.
We'll see, because they very directly point at a satanic figure as the villain one of the shots. So if that's not an indicator of it being Mephisto, I don't know why you would put it in this show. So.
They're bringing in Hophesto, his brother.
Of course. The classic Hophesto of Marvel canon.
I wish we could talk about Loki more, but I haven't seen it yet. And we're going to talk about that more on next week's episode. Apart from that, I'm trying to think. Today, one of the co-creators of Y: The Last Man just tweeted out a picture of Yorick Brown in his getup.
Yes.
And I am so excited.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up later because we're going to talk about Sweet Tooth, a new show based on a DC comic on Netflix, and it takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where there are hybrid humans now. And what I was going to say, I'll just say it now. Watching that show must get you so excited for Y: The Last Man, because it seems like the post-apocalyptic series is perfected now. They can shoot it so easily and tell that story very, very well.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. For listeners who don't know, Y: The Last Man is my favorite piece of comic book writing ever. It's like my favorite piece of literature ever. I have a tattoo of it on my arm. It's a big part of my life. It's one of the comic books that made me love comic books. And I have been waiting 12 years for this fucking thing to get out of development hell, which it has been stuck in forever. It is it's one of the most maligned productions in human history. But yeah, now it seems like everything has aligned. Brian K. Vaughan has got more control. The dude who they've cast as Yorick is one of the best ones, because they were Shia LaBeouf at one point was supposed to be it, and I was just like, no, please, God, not that.
You got it so wrong.
And then another time it was supposed to be the kid from Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I'm like, no, that he's a great actor, but that's like wrong. The dude they picked is really good. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do. And at the end of the day, even if the show isn't amazing, right? I'll still always have the comic. Like that'll never take it away. But I do agree with you that the post-apocalyptic formula is basically it's locked up now. And they know how to do it. And I think that they're going to do it to the best of their ability. And I'm very excited to see that.
And also they're past the whole like make it into a feature thing. Now since everything is make it into a TV show, the post-apocalyptic series can really blossom. Because those stories isn't a one story thing. It's a character development over all these atrocities and all these hardships that you have to conquer, mixed with the really good times that you know are going to turn really bad pretty quickly.
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
can't really enjoy that in a movie format anymore.
Well, not only that, but yeah, this show, or this book specifically, this comic, is perfect for like a 4-season series.
Yes.
Like, if you take all of the aspects of the story, season by season, 10 episodes per season, you will tell that story to completion in the best of its ability without having to like add or take anything away. And that is exactly what I'm hoping they're going to do. And not only that, I'm very glad that it's on FX, because FX has shown in recent years that they fucking know how to make an amazing show.
Yes.
Legion is unbelievable. Fucking Devs was unbelievable. Dave is unbelievable. Like, I cannot wait for this show to fucking come out, because FX has proven time and time again that they are to be trusted with properties like this.
Agreed. And they also know when to end a property. They're not in the business of Walking Dead where they're going to fucking keep that thing going on forever. They're like, no, we told the story, the end. next.
Yeah. No, it is definitely. I'm excited. I hope more people see that photo. Like, and it's supposed to come out later this year, so I am over the moon about that. Like, geek news wise, that's so fucking cool.
Yes.
Oh God, I cannot fucking wait. But I can't really think of any other geek news that happened this week.
Well, pop culture news. Real quickly, we can talk about it. Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul boxed each other, and they both made.
Oh my God! Yeah, I guess we do have to talk about
a
that.
lifetime of money. Floyd Mayweather made upwards of $100 million between sponsorships and the fight purse. Logan Paul made $20 million. He wore his first edition holographic Charizard into the ring, which raised the value of it to now it's $1 million. It's worth $1 million. And the boxing match was an awful display of boxing on Logan Paul's part. Floyd Mayweather is still a master at boxing, but yeah, it happened.
Yeah, no, we're not really. I'm not a really big sports person. I know that you like some sports, but it's not,
I love combat sports. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like sports. I follow a lot of sports. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not a big aspect of my life, and I know it's a aspect of your life, but it's not something that we talk about on the channel too much. All I'll say is that this was just like a sideshow, right? Like there was no like merit to this. Like it's not even fair to pit Logan Paul against Floyd Mayweather, the best boxer of our time, right? Like that's inherently ridiculous. Although I guess he held out all of the rounds.
Well, there's a clip where Floyd knocked him out. He looks like he went limp, and then he held him up so he could regain his senses. So there's a part of it that's kind of like, clearly this was always staged to have Logan Paul end the fight. And it's so impressive that he made it all the way there. He's conditioned to last at least. But
I'm not gonna take it away from Logan Paul. Like, he clearly did the training, and I didn't watch the fight, but just like clips that you saw on like Twitter and shit like that. Like, yeah, the dude's in good shape and all that.
Just have him get beat up already. Have him fight an actual boxer his size, his age, and let's just see his clown ass get knocked the fuck out. Like,
well, I was about to say, wasn't the weight like completely off? Because Logan's huge.
Yeah, it's like a
Mayweather,
30-pound weight difference, a huge height difference. What's crazy though is that the reach isn't. Logan only had a 2-inch reach advantage. So Floyd, without going too far into the sports science of it all, Floyd Mayweather.
Hold on a second, let me just. Whoop.
Like, it makes sense why that guy's a master at counter boxing. He's really good at dodging everything like that. But if his reach is equivalent to a 6'2" male, of course he's going to beat guys his own size. Like, that's just a crazy advantage that. Yeah. Anywho.
I mean,
the Paul brothers suck. Everyone's
I fucking hate the Paul brothers.
Kicked. Yeah.
Jake
Paul is fighting Tyron Woodley, who was at one time UFC champion. He has a right hand that can knock people out. So he's finally going to fight an in-shape knockout puncher. So I think the world may finally see Jake Paul get knocked out.
Yeah, I am waiting for like good for them for reinventing themselves, right? Like, to go from very annoying YouTubers into very annoying boxers. Like, good for them. And
it's
also,
all Conor McGregor's fault, really. It's a trickle down thing. So fuck
I don't know.
too.
So yeah, that did happen this week, and I don't care. And yeah, it definitely seems like I can't say it was staged, but it definitely doesn't feel like anybody won, right? Like, nobody won.
Did.
The people who paid for it,
I
except for them making boatloads of cash.
They definitely won.
Like, it just feels so hollow and sad and very reminiscent of our times.
I wish Bo Burnham would make a song about that, but
Oh, dude, that special's still staying with me. God damn it!
Welcome to the
fucking
internet.
Good.
Take a look around.
Well, you got your wish. They released all the songs now, so you don't have to go through any more of the trauma than need be.
Dude, trying to download Welcome to the Internet and put it into the promo was so hard. He encoded it incredibly that you have to do these workarounds to get it on there. You can't just download it and put it in the video. If you download it and put it on Premiere, it's only an audio file, and then it's sped up, so you can't even utilize it. So I had to take it from there, put it in After Effects, make a comp in Premiere, then use that comp from After Effects to put the clip, a 4-second clip, into our promo.
Hi, welcome to Editing with Warren and Dillon. Are you bored yet? Dude, I feel for you. That sounds awful.
Yeah, it looks good though.
Yeah, I can't wait to fucking see it. Okay, well, yeah, that's basically it for geek news and stuff wise. Let's get off. Let's do Raya first.
Okay.
So this week, Disney Plus had Raya and the Last Dragon be available for all public consumption without paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, I'm very glad I didn't pay for it. This story is about dragons go extinct in this land that was once prosperous and filled with them, and all of the nations were, of course, caring and loving of one another. And then one day, demonic darkness takes over the land, and the last dragon sacrifices themselves to, provide for this land. But sadly, through that sacrifice, humans become petty and corrupted and all that stuff. And it's like, that seems like an interesting story to tell. The animation was beautiful, but I did not enjoy this movie, and I would like to hear your opinion.
Well, so Kara and I actually paid to go and see it. We went when the movie theaters started opening up. We were like, "Oh, we need to go see a movie." Or I said that because I love going to the movies, and we chose to see Raya and the Last Dragon we chose the AMC 7, which is on 10th Street in East Village, and across the street from there is an H Mart. And if you're unfamiliar with the H Mart, it's a Korean market where have all of these delicious foods you can imagine. And inside this H Mart, they also have BBQ chicken, which is a special fried chicken that they cook in olive oil and specially do Korean flavors with it. So we got mochis, we got the pouches, all right, let's see. We got mochi, we got the fried chicken, we got, all right, a surplus of delicious foods, and
so
we go and see this
may have colored your review of the film.
So then, going to see the movie, I had the time of my life. I had a great time being in movie theater again, being able to eat delicious food while watching it, and seeing just a colorful representation of Southeast Asians. I loved seeing how the character development of characters being driven to madness over revenge or trying to survive and then brought back to humanity. I love seeing Awkwafina continue to grow as the star that she is. And I really loved all the assisting characters. I just thought it was like a charming movie. And I don't think it is revolutionizing anything, but I had a really good time watching it. I think that Over the Moon I might enjoy if I was to compare Asian animated movies against each other, which no one should ever do because they can both exist. But yeah, I didn't leave it being like I hated it. I really enjoyed it. And I think that's the thing of like when you watch a movie on a couch versus in a movie theater, it's so much harder to win people over because you have all these distractions. When you're locked in a screen filled with delicious foods and nothing else going on, I think you're going to kind of like a fully animated movie more.
Yeah, well, let me say this. I was super excited about this film, specifically from the East Asian aspect. Like, I'm all for Disney choosing to do non-European fairy tales now, right? Like, we've done so many of those. It would be really cool for you to explore other cultures' fairy tales. Like, that's really fucking interesting. Yes. And that is what I was excited about. I was like, I'm really looking forward to this. But sadly, what I feel kind of happened was they just kind of, I don't want to say they whitewashed it because it obviously has a Asian cast. It's pulling from Asian source material. It has beautiful designs and like textures and stuff taken from Asian culture, which is really fucking cool. But at the end of the day, the story feels so Western and like predictable and formulaic and kind of just like, I don't know. I agree with you that maybe if I saw it in theaters, I could have been more immersed in it and I could have felt it a little bit more. But as I was watching it, I was just like, this writing isn't really hitting me the way I want it to. It's not going as dark as I was hoping that it would. I was really kind of hoping, like you said, like the transformation of the characters. I think it's okay, but it still feels very formulaic to me. It was just one of those things where I was disappointed watching it, honestly. Okay. Like it didn't hit me the way I was hoping to, especially for a property that is so cool, right? Like the idea of telling like a dragon fairy tale that's centered in Thai and Vietnamese like fairy tale history is fucking cool. Like I want to see that and support that.
I don't know. I didn't feel the Western presence in it. I just kind of felt like it was a bunch of nations trying to survive, which is very enriched in Asian cultures. They were constantly at war amongst themselves, trying to have supremacy. Chinese cultures, they were constantly fighting over supremacy, only to then be taken over by Mongolians, so like, and the Japanese and everything like that. So I didn't feel necessarily that it was like a imperialist movie trying to take over smaller cultures.
Oh no! I didn't mean that. I mean like in the way that like the tone and structure of the way that people are speaking and the way that the story is presented. It just didn't feel necessarily like it was trying to embrace as much of the fairy tale from Eastern philosophy and or folklore as it could have. And maybe that's just because Disney's making it and they want to sell it to everybody.
I guess, yeah. Maybe. I don't know. That is your critique of it. That's your side of it. I didn't see that. I don't know. I loved it. I loved the choreography. I think the fight scenes are gorgeous. I thought that, I don't know. I'll have to rewatch it, but I don't have any bad taste in my mouth of it. So for me, it's 2 thumbs way up. And
for me, it's 2 thumbs way down. Welcome to Pop Culture Party People Battle Royale.
Yeah. I mean, like, I would still pick that over. It's the last animated movie I can think of that I enjoyed. It's not like which one before that am I freaking out about.
I would definitely take Soul over this, even for its problematic nature. I
wouldn't. Because Soul doesn't work because inherently it wants to follow the spirit and not the black man in his journey. Like the Soul wasn't even. It was originally written for the spirit. They didn't even think to have a black lead character and make it jazz well after the fact. That movie in itself is super problematic. Like I don't know.
Yeah, let's not go down the woke train.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Soul is just like. Soul's a huge misstep. And then like to win the awards too, it's like no one's gonna learn the lesson from that movie. So I think there's a huge problem with that.
Yeah, no, I was really pissed to see Soul win over, especially like Wolfwalkers, which is like done by a really small team. It's got a very interesting story, really original artwork. Like, come on, Academy, like fucking give it to people who maybe need. Pixar's won every goddamn time it's been at the Oscars. Like, stop it.
Yeah, I think Raya was just a kung fu film, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with an animated kung fu film, and I don't necessarily I didn't see it as a fairy tale too. Like I don't think that every Disney Pixar property is a fairy tale as well. And I think that what with Ken's Convenience getting canceled as well, I think there has to be a thing of just like normalizing Asian stories. It has to be normalizing seeing Asian people on screen, where it doesn't have to be the most excellent thing done. It doesn't have to be traditional. It doesn't have to be this big overarching story. When it can just be a story being told, it doesn't have to be anything more than that. Like, why can't Asian people just be fine? Like, why do they have to be the next greatest thing? And I think that is why I'm defending Raya so heavily.
Well, I mean, dude, if you like the movie, you like the movie. And I bet if I fucking went to H Mart and had some delicious food and was in a theater and got to experience all of that cool animation in a theater, I think maybe I would have come away from it a little bit more positively. But yeah, you're right. As I was sitting on my couch, kind of just trying to really get engaged with the movie while there are other things around me to distract me, it definitely wasn't holding my attention to the same degree that I would like it to. And I don't know if that's the movie's fault or my fault.
Well, it's also a thing of like the whole HBO Go thing as well. Like all these movies are coming to HBO Go now. And it's like, I keep watching and being like, these are all shitty movies. And I'm like, but if I saw this in the theater, would it be any different? It's like, I'm like, would Wonder Woman have been better in the theater? I don't think so. I think that's still flawed no matter what. Would that Denzel Washington movie...
We would have left the theater after Wonder Woman lambasting that fucking thing if we had seen it in person.
Would that Denzel Washington movie with Rami Malek have been better in a theater? I don't think so. I think that still would have been a drag, would have taken forever. So
I do think Mortal Kombat would have been better in a theater.
I saw it in the theater and I really enjoyed it. So yeah. I think in the end, big blockbusters you have to still see in the theater, but your indie small theater showings you can see at home. Like they're designed to be it's designed to be a spectacle.
Well, I'm glad we talked about Raya. If you're interested in it, it's on Disney Plus now for anybody to watch. So feel free to make your own conclusions about it.
Exactly. Please comment below and let us know how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What do we want to talk about next? You pick, bro. You pick, bro. You pick. You pick.
Let's talk about Sweet Tooth.
Cool. Yeah. So earlier this week, a brand new Netflix series came out called Sweet Tooth, based off of a DC Vertigo comic of the exact same name, written and illustrated by Jeff Lemire. You want to tell us a little bit more about the Netflix version of this show, Warren?
The Netflix version of this show is a story of the world dying of a ravenous disease, and
It's
then at
like
the same time,
so topical.
yeah, truly. And around the same time, people will start giving birth to half human, half animal hybrids who are unaffected by the virus, of which the general population begins to blame these hybrids for it and starts to hunt and kill them. What you don't see on screen, but just implied for a lot of it. And a father runs away into the woods during the early part of this virus ravaging the world with his baby infant who seemingly is half deer. And raises the kid for 10 years before the kid has to make it on his own.
Yeah,
sort of.
It's a very interesting story. And I have to say, have you ever read the comic?
I have not, no.
So the show doesn't make massive changes to the comic, but it definitely makes changes. And I actually think for the better. This is one of the few times where I was like, I'm glad they didn't necessarily 100% keep to the source material, because the original comic, Sweet Tooth, is much more religious, actually. His father is like this very religious person, and he's not a very likable character, which is completely the opposite in the show. I think that he does, what's his name?
Will Forte.
I think Will Forte fucking kills it in that role. Like,
it's so
I just want to see
the first
him.
episode.
Yeah, I just want to see him be a dad in more movies. Like, please just make that a thing.
Yes.
So they've changed aspect of that. Also, the big man is this like old grizzled kind of like white. It's kind of like an old man Logan.
Gotcha.
Kind of pulling from, and I'm so glad that they updated that. I think making him like a younger linebacker is an interesting take on it, instead of it just being kind of like a thematic thing that you've understood, like old grizzled white dude who's kind of just
I don't want to raise you, but I guess I'll have to. We bond along the way.
Yeah. So it's kind of very formulaic in that. And I'm only halfway through the show, so I don't know how many more like differences they're going to change from like the ending. And I don't know if it's going to get more seasons, because Sweet Tooth is kind of long. I think it's like 60 issues. So there's definitely plenty of like material for them to like go through in like another season. But overall, I have been really enjoying the show. I think the kid in it is amazing.
He's so charming.
I think that the visual effects and the overall like just look is phenomenal. And I think Robert Downey Jr. and his wife have done a really great job pulling all these different people together to make the show. Like,
truly, yeah. As you're watching the show, it's a lot of moments where like, I've seen this person before. Like, they're amazing. Where have I seen this person? Like the let's call him Guardian for Sweet Tooth is played by the second season villain for Khaleesi in Game of Thrones. You know, you would almost forget him, but he's such a this is going to be his breakout role. I feel like it just endows the scene with so much heart and yet so much earnest pain. You know, you feel what the world is going through this guy's reaction to everything around him, his guardedness, his survival, his brutal survival tendencies. And it's also mixed with these things of it plays on the tropes that you're used to in these survival shows, but they give it to you so early on that it can then be original on its own feet. You know, the vaccine's already introduced in like episode 2, I feel like.
Yeah, so, I like that it's not a show about creating the vaccine. It's very much just like, no, yeah, we created it. And it's like, but most everybody's dead. So like, shit.
It's more like if you're in the community with the vaccine and all the protection, is it even for the better? You know, like, is it actually a prison in its own right? If you're on the lam, are you actually freer for it? Are you actually more under pressure during
it does kind of raise those questions, especially with the doctor. Like there's the scene where they're going to the party and they're like, for the love of fucking God, don't fuck this up. Our neighbors will turn us in and we'll all die.
You know, our neighbor is a Karen, so don't fuck this up.
God damn it, Jim, I told you, we live next to a Karen. Her name is literally Karen.
It's really special. And I'm not sure if you're at this point yet, but there's like these Lost Boys like characters.
Yes, I've gotten to that point where
Yeah.
that is in the original comic, but also they've kind of changed them around a little bit too. Like the story and the main mystery is like, did hybrids create the virus?
Right.
And that will get. I'm interested to see how they answer that question. I know how it's answered in the comic, and I'm interested to see how they answer it in the show, because it looks like they might potentially be doing the same story, but you never know. Like I said, they've made like subtle changes throughout the series, so I'm interested to see if they're going to take it in a different direction.
There's also a thing I didn't see coming that I would love so much. You know, with a half human, half hybrid, you're going to see a human actor with some like prosthetics. Like the main character has deer antlers and deer ears. By the way, they animate the ears so amazingly. It's so adorable and so real every time you see it. But then finally later on, they finally introduce a animal forward human second hybrid, and it is the most fucking adorable thing I've seen since Baby Yoda. It is Bobby is the character's name, and I'm so in love with this character.
Is that the pig person?
That's the pig person's soon-to-be brother.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I've gotten there yet.
Okay,
I don't know if that's in the original. It's been a long time since I've read the original. Like Sweet Tooth came out, I think, more than 12 years ago. Like it came out like before I was in college. So
okay.
Yeah, it came out a fucking while ago, and I read it a very long time ago. So
that's an interesting thing. As far as the whole comic book, like being tired of comic book movies, I think if people drag up these lesser known older comics, we could have this trend going for a long, long time.
Well, we've got a golden age of DC Vertigo and Image stuff that hasn't been adapted yet, really. That if much like Y the Last Man and Sweet Tooth and like Battle Boy and like a bunch of others that have never had a film or a TV show. I'm sure they're owned by somebody, right? The rights have already been purchased. But if we can get, a Netflix or an FX or another big company to really invest in these shows, then we're going to get the best of both worlds. We'll have these amazing comics and we'll have these amazing shows. And Sweet Tooth is kind of like, I'm not going to say it's the forebearer for it, because obviously Legion was really fucking cool, and a bunch of other shows have been really paving the way for telling these more complex comic book stories. But I think, as everybody said, we're like in the golden age of television. I think we might be like coming into the golden age of modern comic book storytelling adaptations.
Yeah. I mean, Invincible just got made finally, and it's taken over the world by storm. I mean,
dude, I know. I'm so glad that so many people are finally connecting with something that we've loved for so long, right? Like, isn't it cool to see people embrace something that you've always liked and be like, yeah, you should have read the comic.
Yeah, it's like that thing when The Red Wedding came out and people who already read the books knew what was happening, and they could be like, oh, finally I can enjoy the experience, or I can film you react to it knowing what's going to happen. That's going to be me with Invincible, being like, oh, you think that was bad? Oh, okay. You think what you just saw in the first season was bad? Okay. All right, pal. Buckle
think,
up.
Mark, think. Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
It gets so much worse. Better.
And seemingly it's going to go on for forever. I mean, I feel like how Naruto was a long-running anime. We're going to have now Western shows that go on for a long time telling these complete stories.
Well, yeah, the great thing is, obviously, it's already been greenlit for seasons 2 and 3. And if it keeps on the same momentum that it picked up just from its very first season, you're right. This is going to be like a Naruto-style, very integrated part of a lot of just people's pop culture watching habits that weren't even that big into this type of animation or story before. Like cool fact, my dad saw me watching Castlevania season 4 and he was like, what is this? And I was like, it's Castlevania. It's amazing. You should watch it. And he has started from the beginning and he fucking loves it. It's fucking amazing. Great. Yeah. He's always loved animation, but in recent years, it's just been kind of something that's kind of fallen by the wayside.
Sure.
Let's bring more people. Bring more people into this pop culture party, baby. So yeah, I really love Sweet Tooth. I'm really excited that it's doing so well. It seems to be one of the top trending shows on Netflix as well, so that will give them more incentive to keep making stuff like this. So yeah, I really love it, and I'm really glad that it's out. I'm really glad that we're watching it. It's cool.
Agreed. Shall we talk about Modok now?
Yes, I think that we can change pace and talk about a Hulu show instead of a Netflix show. Voiced by the incredible, one of my favorite comics of all time, Patton Oswalt.
Yes.
It tells the story of I fucking hate this character, actually. I have always hated Modok. I hate his design.
There's very little to like about him.
Yeah, there's nothing about him, even from like a fanboy perspective, to like about this fucking character.
Yeah.
And the show understands that. So a brand new animated cartoon done in conjunction with the Robot Chicken team. It is Modok, and it tells the story of him kind of just being Modok.
Yes.
Like it understands
self-centered,
that,
wanting world domination piece of shit.
And I think the idea of having him have a family is fucking brilliant. Like at the end of the day, Modok is one of the worst villains in the Marvel universe. He's fucking awful. His design is trash. His whole storyline is completely inane and stupid. He's a giant head in a chair. When you think of Marvel villains, Modok is so far on the bottom of the list of anything that you would want to see brought into live action or animation.
And he's been perfected in other iterations. You know, like Krang is a much better version of Modok.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like Modok in himself is a failure on so many fronts. But the show is so funny, you know, that plays on that whole thing. Trying to make him a lead character is so inherently funny on itself. And it plays on the whole divorcee, shitty dad trying to turn his life around to win his family back. But it's a deplorable character who you don't want to win. It's a deplorable character you shouldn't be rooting for. So how do you make even worse characters around him is a really funny test.
The amazing thing is like Patton Oswalt like knew it, right? Like he was like, I am going to make this character, as fucking awful as he is, really entertaining to watch. Like, watch me turn one of the worst fucking characters in Marvel history into something that is both funny, a little heartwarming sometimes, and ultimately very entertaining. And I can't give them enough fucking props for that. And of course, let's give it up to the fucking Robot Chicken team, who's been doing it for fucking like close to a decade now. And those dudes, like, I give anybody who does stop motion animation so much fucking credit. It's big so time. Hard. And to do it in the context of a TV show, like, fucking good on you, Seth Green, and your team.
That fight scene with Modok and the lead scientist is so hysterical and also so impressive. They jump different animation styles throughout it while throwing in these killer jokes in the entirety of it. It is an incredible show.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder, like, because it is so slice of life, right? Like, this could just go on indefinitely.
Truly.
But after this first season, do you want it to? Like, don't get me wrong, I'd be interested to see more of the show, but I'm also totally fine if this is a one season, one and done sort of deal.
I think it should be not a pantheon. I'm stuck with pantheon in my head because we talked about our pop culture pantheon. It should be a collection of all these other B-class villains. They already showed it in other episodes where he has all these other fellow goons along with him. I want to follow those characters now for each season and then have them kind of like, I want to see this shared universe of loser villains and how they exist in this world.
That's actually a really good idea. There is an amazing comic book called The Incredible Foes of Spider-Man or something like that. And it's all about Spider-Man's less known, crappiest villains. And it is one of the funniest comic books that Marvel has ever put out. Because, following bad supervillains is hysterical.
So funny. It's so funny. It's like, just choose any other job. Like, it's not working out for you, man. Why are you going to take on Iron Man? You're never going to win.
Yeah. No, yeah, that opening scene where they have his boot.
Yeah, they're cheering over just taking Iron Man's boot. Your wife agreed to sleep on the couch so I can sleep alone with Iron Man's boot.
God. And like we said before, Patton Oswalt couldn't be more perfectly cast for this. Like his voice and his, obviously he must have a ton of writing input on the show.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect. And but I agree with you completely. Like, now that the season is done, I'm actually really excited for them to potentially do like a bad villains universe where maybe Patton Oswalt plays other people in it. But yeah, let's follow lesser known, like let's follow the fucking Shocker from Spider-Man. Like, let's have a season of him fucking up. Like, let's do it.
What I want to see more than anything else, there's a character in the show called the Melter. He plays a goon, an old man goon, and he wants to own his own food truck. And he dies before he gets to open it. And he whispers, the whole bit of that episode is Modok trying to guess what the name of his food truck is. And he keeps throwing out all these other names. The cheese-based food truck. So the Melter whispers the name in Modok's ear, and then he dies. So I want to see just an episode in a different timeline, because this can play on different timelines. I want to see the Melter in his food truck. What is that food truck called? What's the perfect food truck name?
Yeah, well, they've already set up the multiple timelines and like alternate universes just through it being Marvel, but also through his time travel episode with his wife, which is a great fucking episode.
Third Eye Blind based time travel. They go back to see a Third Eye Blind concert. That's so funny.
Fuck. So yeah, no. I'm really happy about Modok. I just give Patton Oswalt more stuff. Like, please just let that man work more.
Yeah, if he wants it. I don't want to tire the guy out.
Don't force him to do it.
Yeah.
And I think this was his original creation, sort of. So like, you can tell the love and commitment that he put into it. But yeah, I don't know. I just want Patton. I just want more Patton, because the dude is amazing and fucking hysterical and an unbelievable writer. Like,
yeah, it's a good way of turning your fandom into content. Kevin Smith is another testament to this too. You know, when you really love something, you are going to be able to tell a good version of it. Hopefully. I mean, I'm sure Zack Snyder loves Justice League, so I don't know if necessarily that's the same.
I was about to say, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that formula is the one that we want to go with, because I'm fairly sure that Zack Snyder deeply loved all those things, and look at what we got.
But if I'm still going to watch his sequels, fuck it. Why not?
No, as we said in the Matt Page episode, when he makes a movie, I'm going to watch that movie. Like, he's still an interesting director. It doesn't matter how badly he wrongs me every time he creates a film. I'm still interested to see what he can make, because I believe that there's hope. Like, 300 is unbelievable. That movie's so fucking good. I love
Dusk Till
Watchmen.
Dawn is incredible.
Yeah, Dusk Till Dawn is amazing. Like, there's still like greatness within him. Yeah. Maybe he just needs to like lose money. Yeah. just give him less money.
But I also think that Dusk Till Dawn proves that James Gunn is the real genius behind it. You know, because
actually, that is the better point, because that's written by him, and he had to follow that script. You're on to something. Elaborate more.
He did try to remake that movie, and it was a fucking disaster. But James Gunn, he has taken that formula, and he's done Guardians of the Galaxy. He's going to save Suicide Squad. So I think James Gunn's the true hero in all this. And he obviously has his flowers. No one's like, who's James Gunn? You know, like, he's doing incredible. So.
Yeah, that's true. It'd be one thing if it was like he was languishing in obscurity, but no, he's actually probably more successful than Snyder right now.
Dusk Till Dawn for throwing trash at him.
Yeah. I wrote Dusk Till Dawn and Slither and all these other movies you like. They're like, shut up, you fucking homeless idiot.
$10. Eat my toe jam, idiot.
No, yeah, he's definitely one of those. And Kevin Smith, like, yeah, all these dudes who are obviously super deeply committed to their fandom, right? And that can backfire, of course. Like, how many bad student films and things can you see of people who are just like, I'm a geek, and that defines exactly who I am, as we look at each other about a pop culture podcast. If you can elevate the material and put your own spin on it, like, that's when it's magic, right? Like, that's when it gets really good. And for a lot of those, I don't think, well, I guess Snyder was putting his own spin on it. It was just, once again, it's like the George Lucas effect. If there's nobody there to go, hey, I like your enthusiasm, but I think that there is a better way to tell this story. Let's actively pump the brakes a little bit and talk about that. If you are just so, you know, at the top of your game producer-wise, you know, where you're like, nobody can question me, that's not good. People should question you. Like, that's a big part of making a movie, is like people actively being like, hey, does this work?
Yeah, there has to be some sort of checks and balances. You just can't have free reign, or else you're gonna have like a movie full of foot shots. You know what I mean? Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, looking at you, Quentin. Although he said this, I guess this was in Geek News. He said that he might be done after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like,
That's really sad.
he's always said that he wanted to do a 10 movie run.
Yeah.
But I was reading this interview and he gave a really interesting talk on, God, what podcast was it? It was another podcast. It's a film podcast. And it's this really great interview and deep dive. But he was just talking about how movies don't necessarily bring him the same, making movies don't bring him the same level of joy that they used to. It's not that he doesn't love movies anymore. It's just that he's hit a point in his life where making the next film doesn't consume him as much as it used to.
I wonder it's because how much audiences have changed that he can't get away with things he would normally be doing anymore. I think like he's close to a point in his career where the jokes and the stuff he wants to make would piss too many people off nowadays. I think he might be getting a taste of that.
I think that might partially be true, but I also think like dude's been making movies for 3 decades now, and each movie that he's made has been pretty rousingly successful, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I mean, like,
one or two probably aren't incredible, and that just shows what a fantastic filmmaker he is.
Yeah. So I think the idea, and this is true about anybody who's in an artistic field, you're going to get kind of bored of it. At a certain point, you're just going to need a step back from it. And if like he needs to do that and make other shit in the meantime, fucking let Quentin Tarantino do that. Like, you have 9 amazing films from him.
Or just like open a video store and go full circle, Quentin. You know, like you start in a video store, end in a video store. He'll come back. You know it. He's not dead.
Well, like, I think he loves movies too much to make that a reality. And the dude's only like, I think like 59 or like 60. Like, he's still got plenty of years left in him to make another creation. But if he needs to fucking take a break, take a fucking break. Yeah. Like, yeah, but
he still hasn't done a space movie. So until I see that he won't be done.
That's very true. But he was also talking about in the interview, he was just like, once upon a time, like a lot of directors, and they were talking about like the life cycle of a director and stuff like that. And he was like, a lot of directors, if they keep making movies after they love it, they just make really bad movies. And he's like, I'm really happy ending on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's like, he considers that his like masterpiece. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, that's what you think.
That's what you think. It's not my favorite film that you've ever created, but if you feel like that was the pinnacle of what you could make as like a creator, and that's what you want to go out on, it's not a bad movie to go out on. Yeah.
As much hatred as he gets from female filmmakers and from other audiences being like, I don't like Quentin, this and that, I think end of the day, there's like, I don't know. I love the guy. I love the guy's movies. I don't actually love him as a person, but
I'm going to say that as a person, he can be very grating and opinionated and not the nicest human being in the world. But as a creative person and as a filmmaker, he's one of the best that's ever done it. Like, and if anybody out there wants to say like, no, you're wrong. Categorically, his films are some of the best films that have come out of American canon ever. The writing that is on them is so polished and amazing and immersive that even if you find him problematic and you find his films problematic, you can't not say what he did creatively didn't have merit and helped grow independent cinema in America.
Yes. I'm not supporting that you should only like his movies. His movies are the best ever, but you have to still appreciate his view and his accomplishments as a filmmaker, and the pantheon of of movies that he's made. The pantheon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of comes down to that. Like, you know, can you look past the artist and just look at the art? And I know for some people, especially the more woke among us, they say that no, if somebody does something wrong, you should basically take everything that they did in their life, ball it up into a little ball and throw it in the trash can, and we should never hear from them ever again. And to that I say, no, that's fucking awful. If you're a well-rounded person, you should look at somebody's work and go, that is amazing and worthwhile. And you should also look at their life and go, this is extremely problematic. We should open up the conversation about how power and creativity can corrupt people and how we should avoid that and make it a known fact that this person is a problem, but that their work can still have beneficial merit. As much as I think
it's a case-to-case basis. Because I don't need Woody Allen in my life anymore. You know, I could throw his ball up his shit and throw it into the trash, you know?
See, so. I don't agree. As much as I don't particularly care for Woody Allen, and I don't really particularly care for his films. But once again, the impact that his career has had on cinema is amazing. Like his work as a director and as a producer, and then as a person who made his films enough independently that it showed other people that, like, without Woody Allen, we wouldn't have certain things. We wouldn't have like a Miramax, and I know that's very troubling in and of itself, but like all of the independent networks that you kind of know, Woody Allen was kind of on the forefront of doing that. And through his example, helped other creators get off the ground, and also other actors who, you know,
I mean, that's true. But also I cannot watch his stuff and support the people that he created then. It's like, all right, well, thank you for your work. I don't need to appreciate your work. I'll look at other people's. You know, like I don't need to go back and watch his neebishness and his cringiness, you know? Like I think with all artists, time is gonna be the ultra detriment to all of us. So sadly, instead of it like not aging well, now it's more a thing of a cancel culture being like, oh, well, I'm canceling those things. And I think it's a case-to-case basis. So
I don't know. I just don't want even something as abhorrent as, say, like the Song of the South. Like that should be something that we teach about and be like, this is completely wrong. Like,
but there shouldn't be a ride based on that in Disney World.
No, there shouldn't. Like, no, there shouldn't.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, Song of the South shouldn't be stricken from all history, right?
Yeah.
No, it's a time for you to go, holy shit, this was incredibly racist and a really problematic time in our history. How can we be better than this and learn from this?
Yes.
And I think any time that you are like, we need to cancel this, we don't need to talk about it ever again, we never need to mention it, it just needs to go the fuck away. I think that is not the correct answer. I think I agree on a case-by-case basis, but I do think as a whole, if you forget your history, obviously you're doomed to repeat it. And if you throw stuff in the trash bin of history, it can repeat itself and not be fucking great.
I think it's a thing though of like, not necessarily you're not gonna, so like R. Kelly is an example. His songs aren't gonna go away, but like the story of him entrapping all these women, including them and all his terrible sex acts should come first. It's just like, hey, absolutely, he's a terrible person. You know, like it's like his song, his Bump and Grind is gonna be around forever.
Pony's amazing. That song is great.
That's genuine though. But
that is genuine. I'm so sorry.
No worries. But still, like, yeah, we're not a music podcast, okay? Let's say again, we're not.
Fine. I Believe I Can Fly. That's a fucking great song.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It's something that our generation has got to figure out with the cancellation of stuff.
Yeah, like, dude, I'm okay with kind of like putting a preface before it. And yeah, like you said, like making it known kind of upfront, like this is a problem, but also you can enjoy this potentially. Although I do think like the Turner Classic Movies thing where they were like, this is a movie about the Deep South in the 1800s. It will have a woman who is portrayed as a slave. It's like, I don't know if you need to go that far. I don't know. But Gone in the Wind, when she comes in screen, it's definitely a smack in the face. You're like, oh, this is rough. No, yeah, of course it is. Like, it's not, but once again, if every single second of your day, you're trying to apologize for people in the past who weren't at the place we are now yet, right? Like they didn't have the same level of knowledge and or ability to accept people and want to learn from people. I think you sometimes just get bogged down in the minutia of it. And it's just like, yeah, I get it. Fucking Gone with the Wind was made in the 30s or the 40s. Yeah. And it's got some shit in it. Like I get it. Mammy looks very racist. It was in the fucking past. Yeah. I don't know. I think Defunctland does a great job talking about the song in the South. And like, I think the history lessons to be taught from all of this is available to people if they want to learn from it all. It's definitely a tough thing of like, is this the equivalent of burning books right now? You know, like, are we just going to destroy things that we don't like and then lose it forever? But also with the digital age, you cannot lose everything forever. It's going to be there. Yeah, I was about to say, like, it's not so much a matter of it burning books, right? Where like God forbid that was the only version of that book, that stuff is gone forever.
Yep.
It's never
Yep.
coming back.
Yep.
In the digital age, getting canceled or being removed isn't necessarily possible because through the advent of the internet, you can look anything up. It's more, to me, a mindset of choosing to take something that you don't personally like and going, I don't want this in my life. And instead of it just being like, I'm not going to interact with it in my life, you're going, I'm going to try and make sure that nobody interacts with it ever fucking again, because that's how problematic it is. And for certain things, you should do that. Nazis, racism, stuff like that. Yeah, that should be thrown in the trash. But the idea that a property or piece of media, even something as awful as Birth of a Nation, that is something that we should look back once again in a historical context and go, why was this made? How did this affect the country? What were the implications of this? Like, that is the more mature and nuanced way to approach media, in my opinion.
Sure. I think it's also a thing of people lashing out for not being able to have control of things. You know, it's like cancel culture is a voice of a silent it's a voice of people unable to make change happen, suddenly have a voice and be able to change it. Because at the end of the day, there's still people in power and positions of getting success that shouldn't be there. So it's like a thing of like seeing Gary Oldman continue to get work when he is he's a wife beater. He beats his wife, and he's a terrible person in that fact. But then for him to be able to keep doing what he's doing and getting the work for it, it's kind of like that thing of like what is cancelable, what is not cancelable, and then like what is allowed and what is not allowed. It's like a very tricky thing of like,
I think we're figuring it out. Like, we're living in the time, like you just said, where people who didn't necessarily have a voice now have a voice and are potentially not overcorrecting, but they're maybe not using it to the best of its ability, right? They're maybe being a little bit too fascist in the way.
Punching down a lot of times.
Yeah, maybe they're being a little bit too harsh.
Yeah.
Maybe they're being a little bit too harsh on some people. Some other people, maybe not. Like you said, it's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, ravaging a comment section on a YouTuber isn't a rightful use of that power. But like holding a film creator like a Woody Allen is where it should be used, you know?
Yeah, holding somebody accountable, holding anybody accountable for their actions is a measured response. But like you said, having, like you just said on YouTube, having somebody having a different opinion than you is not actionable for you to be like, we should ruin this person's fucking life.
Yeah.
No. Hi, welcome to Civics with Warren and Dillon.
This is going to be an interesting podcast to edit, honestly. It's like,
I'm leaving all this shit in. I don't fucking care. And that's the point. Like, I think like you, sometimes I'm afraid to say the stuff that's on my mind. Rightfully so. It seems like it could backfire sometimes. But you know what? Fuck that shit. Like, I'm going to say what I'm going to say in the best, most educated way that I can say it. And I hope that you understand where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's why I'm afraid to say what I'm going to say. It's more that I want to know. I'm more open to listening. You know, my whole thing is like I want to hear what you're saying and where it's coming from. Unless it's complete bullshit and idiocy. You know, like
like once again, like we are not saying that this is not a blanket thing. This is so complex and has so much overarching reach that it can't ever really be taken care of in the context of one conversation. It's really a thing that you have to constantly work at to improve and learn.
Well, it's also
like Warren
a tough
said, you
thing
have
too.
to listen to other people.
Yes. And also it's a tough thing too because people could be virtue signaling. They're like, oh, I'm calling out the right people and I'm like being on top of things. But really, behind closed doors, I'm a shitty person. So like I'm going to cover that up by virtue signaling to highlight what a good person I am. I'm all for the right causes. I'm doing all the right things. But in the end, I'm like saying toxic stuff to my partner. I'm like a terrible coworker. I beat my dog. Like, so like it's a thing of like, I'm coming clean now. So like, no, like
I was about to say, like, where are we going with this, Warren? You want to, is Ginger doing okay?
Yeah, Ginger's not doing okay. She's getting seizures. I got to take her to her neurologist, actually.
Oh, fucking Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a really complicated world right now where it feels like there's landmines where you just want to get through the day. But I think that when you have a good moral foundation and you want to learn more and you're willing to research, you can come to your own conclusions and you're not feel like you're being attacked by every side.
No, I completely agree with that. I think what you just said is extremely eloquent. The idea that if you're doing this as a performance, right, so that you don't get in trouble, that is clearly wrong. That's not what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is be an empathetic human being and go, maybe my experience is different from somebody else's experience.
Yes.
And that is something that all of us have to come to terms with. The idea that, yeah, maybe I did have a slight advantage or more than a slight advantage because I was white in this particular situation. Maybe I should examine why that could be so hurtful for a society as a whole. That doesn't mean that white people are inherently evil. It just means that the societal structure that is around us favors one group more than it does the other. And how can we, as a society and as a people, look at that and go, how can we change this? How can we make this better for more people than just me?
Exactly. It's a thing of like the mistake has been made. Like have the willingness to admit that you're wrong, let your ego and pride go to the side, and try to be an agent of good to do better and help out. The willingness to make some wrongs, and then also like have thicker skin. I think that's a big thing with, I'm discovering like, okay, if people give me a hard time, I can handle that and I can work on it. I don't need to be perfect. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily want to talk about anything else. I actually think that was like a really nice way to end the podcast. I think that was actually pretty poignant and beautiful, and we're amazing. I think that's the takeaway. That, you know what, if you need questions answered about society, I think you're looking at the two people who should answer them.
Yeah.
Is that wrong? If you
stayed to this part of the podcast, know that just go to Dillon for all your answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Or go to Warren. Either or. We're clearly
us.
authorities on everything. So remember when I just said that my experience might not be the same? I take all that back. My experience is everyone. I am a universal being. I know all. That is it for this episode of Pop Culture Party People. Next week, I think we're going to have on
The Eye of the Duck. We're going to have Dom Nero and Adam Volrich on our episode. Please check out their podcast. We're going to have them on to talk about whatever it is they want to talk about pop culture that week.
That's awesome. So yeah, we're not going to do recommendations for this week because we're going to be having guests on for next episode. Apart from that, Warren, is there anything you'd like to plug before we head on out?
Check out Give the Baby a Knife on Boogie Manja's Twitch. We'll have some new sketch videos and some music videos for everyone to watch. Check out my Instagram at Chao and my YouTube at Show Me the Chaos.
You can find me at Unlimited Free Time on YouTube, and you can find me at all_the_birds on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And also, please, as we talked about at the top of the show, follow my new feature film, More Than Monogamy. Please like it, subscribe to it, do all that good shit to it. That is it for this episode of Pop Culture Party People. We are the Pop Culture Party People. We put the cults in pop culture. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.